let's talk about the overall health of your trade. So, what I mean by the overall health of your trade, I want you to stop and think about something. So, let's compare trade to a marriage. So, you know that when you're married, let's just say you're married to your spouse for a year. Over that year, you can kind of get a general idea of how good or bad the marriage has been going. Do you all bicker and argue a lot? Do you guys bicker and argue a lot? Or do you have a good time together? Do you guys understand and agree with each other a lot? Every relationship is going to have its ups and downs, as most trades do. I mean, no trade is going to go up all the way or down all the way, but every relationship is going to have its ups and its downs, right? Now, where we are coming from, the overall health of a trade is you can get a general idea as to how a trade is doing based on certain intervals in time or in certain areas in time, right? And it is synonymous with a marriage, right? So let's just say you've been married to your partner for 1 year. And at the end of a year being with this person, you've made it to your first year anniversary. A few weeks after the anniversary and you all celebrate and stuff, you kind of stop and you just think to yourself, I really argue with my partner a lot and we don't always agree with each other. We don't always see eye to eye. You are now auditing your relationship and you're now asking yourself, one, do I want to stay in this relationship with this person? Which you should, right? Because you should try to figure out how to, fix it and get better. But the real thing is you're trying to understand, what can I do to make this work, right? Now, with a trade, let's just say for some reason you were to enter this your USD right here. We are interested in a sell, right? Because we have a bull trend. It looks like a potential M pattern, and you can see the potential M pattern here. You have your first high, second high, right? And we know that your USD overall is bearish. So we know that this M and this bull trend here is most likely induction to get traders to buy, to inject some liquidity into the market so that it can continue selling. Now, you remember the intervals we spoke about over time? These intervals would be these zones on this trend line. So what you can do, you can kind of stop and really audit what is happening to your trade. Let's just say for whatever reason you entered here. You can audit how the trade is going, how your relationship or your marriage is going. Because you remember you're married to the trade, right? How is your relationship or your marriage going when it gets to this interval? So let me explain. Let's just say price gets down here and it goes a little further. You can say that your marriage, you being married to this trade, is doing pretty good. It's actually quite healthy. You can see progress. You can see growth. Let's say now that it goes a little further, it comes back, and then because all relationships are going to have their ups and their downs, and then it gets to this area. So now maybe this is the 3-year mark, and around the 3-year mark you start to realize that it's stumbling a little bit. You all are having difficulties maybe making certain decisions or whatever, right? And it starts to go back up. You're starting to realize that maybe the progress that you've been having thus far is not as clear as before, right? And instead of progress, you're actually regressing, right? This is now giving you signs of the overall health of your trade, the overall health of your marriage. The reason why I'm saying the overall health is not because this trade is either good or bad, but it's telling you, this is telling you something, because you know that in this area here, there are masses who would have been buying, right, on the bull trend line. And we know that in order for that to happen, the dealer needs to drive price below that area, take out these buyers, and then maybe do something like this. So we're looking at this move now, and this is telling us, well, the health of this trade, maybe it's starting to lose some of the weight behind it, right? So what I'll say is, in a case like this, let's just say you enter the trade here as again, I would say, obviously, this is a pretty good time to start to secure some profits or secure more of the profits by virtue of either closing the trade. I wouldn't really recommend that, but closing the trade or taking off half of it, I don't recommend this either. Or what I do recommend is actually moving your stop further into profit, because now you're threatened in the sense of, you need to make sure that things are in order, that if things should go wrong, you have something to kind of safeguard yourself, right? And it just so happens that upon realizing that you're now trying to safeguard things. So maybe you decide to put your stop loss right above this last area, right? By looking at the overall health of it, you're saying, well, if it comes back and it takes you out here, well, you know what? It's not the end of the world. But here's the thing. A lot of the time, by looking at how price reacts to this area or an area of interest, and it can be anything, it can be anywhere that you know that there's an area of interest, not a key level or anything like that. This just happens to be a key level right here, right? But the thing is, what I'm really interested in is how price reacts to this area. So what could happen from this point is, like I said, it can go up and maybe hit your stop loss, take you out in profit, and nothing really, no negative comes out of it. Or this could be a move here designed to scare people into closing their positions, which is why I do not recommend closing the position manually, because what I have seen multiple times is it moves up in the favor of the buyers who would have been buying here, and then make them believe like it's actually going to buy, and then you know something, it does that. It gets to this area, does something very similar, and then it breaks and continues. And this, to me, gives me the general consensus of the health of my marriage to this trade. Because what I am looking at is I'm looking to see how price reacts at certain intervals in time. Instead of just saying, well, let me just set a take profit and just call it whatever. I'm interested to see how price reacts at certain intervals in time. Just like with your marriage, if you are married, you want to see how your relationship is doing over time. After 5 years, do you still love your partner? Would you still do anything for your partner? Or do you argue? Do you bicker? Do you always disagree and have disagreements? These things help you not only figure out where you are, but know how to move forward. And that is what is important as a trader, knowing how to move forward. So this is something that and I've done this before. I've spoken about this before, maybe not on YouTube, but I've spoken about this before in my program. Something I want you to learn to do is pay attention to certain areas where you know that there's a lot of liquidity and see how price reacts to those areas. If you're in the trade before price has gotten back to those areas, you're going to get a general idea of the health of your trade and what is the likelihood of that trade going further and further into profit.